Dear guardian of Mary, the nurse of her child, life's ways are full weary, the desert is wide. Big suns are all around us, no home can we see. Sweet spouse of Our Lady, we lean safe on thee.
And Saint Joseph was very busy, okay, following the will of God, following the command of the angel. All of that he did. The everyday life of Mary, Jesus, and Joseph in Nazareth was important. It speaks of volume because that is the ordinary life of each one of us.
The ordinary things, lahat po yan binindisyonan ng Panginoon and made them salvific, that we can be saved by doing these ordinary things. How can Saint Joseph help us maintain this holiness in the family, in the face of all these assaults, really, against holiness and against the family in our time?
Joseph tells us that the greatest gift that we could ever have is not money, fame, power, all these things. But the greatest gift that we could ever have is no other than Jesus. And those who have received Jesus who is the self-gift of the Father, remember, the greatest gift of God to man is by being a self-gift, God who became man. Those who have received Jesus truly, just as Saint Joseph had been transformed. Rather than focusing on his own dreams and his own interest, now he centered his focus on Jesus. And he was ready to make sacrifices for Jesus. He was transformed not to be self-centered, but to be other-centered. That is the problem of the world today.
Mhm.
There is so much individualism, and the fruit of that is we forget God.
Yes, I will particularly stress, of course, sa buhay mismo ni San Jose, in the events of his life. For first, of course, he had this quandary over the Blessed Virgin being pregnant, and he was able to set aside what may be some inner, self-focused concerns, na about the Blessed Mother, and trust in God, So, naigpawan po niya kung ano man ang maaaring naghatak sa kanya na i-focus sa sarili niya. Very important. Second, of course, nung ang ating Panginoon na isinilang, hindi siya nagbukbok na, wala akong makitang kung saan isisilang. Hindi nagbukbok. Ano po? He was not so thinking, what will happen to us? No. Kung dito isisilang, yun ang tinakda ng Diyos. We do it. No? We have, so really, it's so crucial not to be so focused on yourself. And of course, the flight to Egypt and coming back, complete trust in the Father. No, one can imagine perhaps a more self-focused person na pag may nagkaroon ng ganyang instruction, ay nako, he'll think of siya na gagawa ng paraan para ba't pa ako makikinig sa Diyos? Eto na, gagawa ko ng paraan. Baka siguro, kausapin ko si Herod, whatever. Pero hindi. Siya po ay nagtiwala. So really, in the scriptural life, it's really wonderful that we see the focus on Christ and the trust in God. Kasi ang problema natin ngayon, masyado tayong bilib sa sarili. Di mo ba?
Totoo po yan.
Bilib sa sarili. Pagka bilib ka sa sarili, para pa ang Diyos, di ba? Ganun na nagiging takbo ang isip. So we really have to follow what you said, Father, the focus on Jesus, who is of course God, and because of this, you set aside a lot of the selfishness that is really at the root of our moral decay at this time. No? Now, one particular aspect of Saint Joseph that I'd like to highlight, and this is an issue, of course, very strongly in our time. No, actually, two aspects. One is that he is the chaste spouse of the Blessed Virgin. That word chastity, unfortunately, is almost like a bad word in our time. Kasi para bakit, people, we are so, sorry to say it, we are so obsessed with, there's a lot of obsession with sex in our society. And it really degrades families and, of course, leads us away from God. No? Nilalayo po tayo niya sa Diyos. No? So, that aspect of Saint Joseph, I think, is something we can talk about a bit. No? And the other thing I will note, no, Joseph, apart from trusting in God, he was powerless. He was powerless. Hindi po siya na merong hukbo na tumutulong sa kanya. Hindi siya yung katutak na pera para mapagalaw kung ano gusto niya. He was powerless. So he was not only chaste, but he also was powerless.
That's true.
So those two aspects, actually, I think it will help us stay on the path to holiness in our time. No, Father, maybe we will talk about that.
Well, about Joseph being most chaste, that was explained to us by Pope Francis in his apostolic exhortation, Patris Corde. What does it mean to be chaste? First is to be not possessive. When you are possessive, and that is selfishness. Again, it's the focus on the self. It's always on the focus of the self, to exploit others for the self. That's sex. So we objectify. There is a lot of pornography around. There's a lot of infidelities around. Why? Because we forget to treat others, okay, and to love others for their own good, not for me. Okay, we objectify. That's how now. That's the problem with this view of the world to be exploited.
You are watching ETVN Philippines.
Emmanuel, the God with us who saves.
You can only love in freedom. In freedom. What does it mean? To be disinterested. What you call that disinterested love. Disinterested. You are a kind of detached from your own self-interest, but only for the interest of others, for the good of others. St. Thomas is saying what love is to will the good of the others, of the other, okay, as other. So for St. Joseph, there is no like tinge of self-interest. Being the father of Jesus, he could have been instrumentalized his own position as the father of Jesus as a way to get up to the social ladder. But it was not. He did not do that. That is chaste love. That is chaste love. We see that Joseph has supported the mission of Jesus. When Jesus has already started this public ministry, most likely he died already. But there is some purpose for that, I think. Okay, he allowed Jesus, okay, to do his mission, and he would recede on the background because he would not like that his figure could overshadow Jesus. Because remember that the Father would always have a big role in the life of every person. So it is not difficult for Jesus to get out of the shadow of his Father, because from the very start, He receded on the background. We can only remember that in the scriptures, well, everybody knew that he was the son of a carpenter in Nazareth. Everybody knew of that. But he receded in order to give the chance for Jesus. Well, that is part of the chaste love.
Yes.
Okay? That is part of being chaste. Not to exploit others, not to instrumentalize others.
I will particularly highlight really the key is to conduct ourselves and even follow the dictates of our heart based on something outside us. Na ito po ay kung anong takda ng Panginoon at kung ano ikabubuti ng kapwa. Hindi yung sarili mong nais, sarili mong nasa, sarili mong ambisyon. So I think that's, if I may just, encapsulate this chaste love na tinutukoy po ni Papa Francisco at saka na isinabuhay po ng ating San Jose. Now, your remarks actually, Father, already point to also the other aspect of Saint Joseph. He was hidden. He did not seek fame. He did not, use great power, even though he might have, tried to do that. Hindi po niya ginawa yon. And maybe that aspect also in our time really also is a way for us to liberate ourselves from the lures of our time. Kasi sa panahon po natin ngayon, pera, kapangyarihan, katanyagan, these fame, fortune, and power are really obsessive. Recently there was talk who is the richest man on earth or person on earth, no? Dati daw si Elon Musk, tapos naigpawan ni Bernard Arnault. I mean, ganyan po ang mga napagtutuunan ng pansin sa atin po sa Panginoon. What can we say about Saint Joseph in that aspect?
Actually, totoo po yung sinabi niyo, no? Ngayon, ang binabantayan natin kung sino ang pinakamayaman, kung sino ang pinakasikat, kung sino ang number one, no? Pero as I was saying before, Pope Francis was saying, those who are working in the shadows, even if they are not number one in the eyes of man, they have an incomparable role in the history of salvation. And that is Saint Joseph. We can say that is Saint Joseph. And that is why we are saying also that he's really following Jesus. Okay? Because for Jesus, who is the greatest in the kingdom of God?
The child.
The child. Diba? If you cannot have the heart of the child, you cannot enter the kingdom of heaven. And then during the Last Supper, diba? Ano ba yung, who is the greatest among you? Are the one who would, what? Who would serve?
Who would wash
the feet of your brother?
Yes.
So the path to greatness is service, not to have those money, etc. But Saint Joseph has done it. Even before all the disciples, he was the first. Okay? And he did not desired for money, fame, position. Unlike, for example, Peter or James and John. Remember that they thought, this is my chance.
Yeah, I will be at your right side and your left side.
Because they thought that Jesus would be an earthly king, a political king.
Yeah.
But for Saint Joseph, it was different. Because we know he did not complain. He did not complain when he had so many troubles, while the angel already told him, you will be, taking care of the Son of the Most High. How come? This is the Son of the Most High, am I suffering? So, Saint Joseph, really, first it was his trust in the wisdom of God, not in the wisdom of man. So, in this way, we can follow Saint Joseph.
I really like that element you mentioned of really trusting in the wisdom of God, because a lot of the moral decay and godlessness in our life is because men have abandoned trust in God and and really thankfulness for everything that He has given us, and actually believe that whatever we enjoy now is purely human effort. Hindi po. Lahat yung kahit ano pa man yung mga karunungan natin, lahat po yan galing sa Panginoon. No, galing sa Panginoon, and we forget that, no? And it is wonderful that we have Saint Joseph to really exemplify a total trust in God, a total abnegation of self, na hindi ako ang importante, and of course focus on other people's, first on Jesus, and then the Blessed Virgin, and the people he was serving as a carpenter. No, ito po ang naging tuon niya. Well, this really has covered quite a bit, and a wonderful introduction for our Band of Saint Joseph series. We shall have, of course, you again in another episode. And Father, maybe before we end today's episode, may I ask you for any parting message for this episode? We'll have you again, of course, in our next episode.
Well, just to sum up the life of Joseph, it's no other than the word. Only one word. Joseph did not speak anything in the Bible, but we know there is only one word that he spoke, because he was the one was given the task, the only one, not even Mary, given the task to name Jesus. Only one word. It's Jesus. For Joseph, the center is Jesus. So let us center our life on Jesus. That is the message of Joseph.
Maraming pong salamat, Father Maxie.
Thank you
We
po.
will have you again.
Yeah.
Hindi po ito katapusan natin kay Father Maxie. We will have him again. And again, we thank Father Maximo A Sevilla for joining us here all the way from Rome, where he is second general counselor of the Oblates of St. Joseph, and he's also doing his further theological studies. We thank him for joining us here, and we will see you in the next episode. Maraming pong salamat. Just one word, as Father Maxie said, just one word. For St. Joseph, that one word that is the center of his life is Jesus. Ang ibig pong sabihin, God saves. Yan po ang ibig sabihin ng salitang Jesus. Jesus, yan po ay handog ng Diyos sa atin. Yan po ang tuon ng buhay ni San Jose. Yan din po ang dapat natin ipagpasalamat sa Panginoon at tuunan ng pansin gaya ng ginawa ni San Jose. Ako po si Ric Saludo, nagpapaalam sumandali sa inyo hanggang sa susunod nating episode. Marami pong salamat sa inyong panonood.
You are watching ATVN Philippines.
Emmanuel.